my name is Francoise. I've written a number of books about support, including The Art of Support, which talks about managing support organizations and also customer success organizations. I founded a consulting company back in the day, and what we do is we help technology companies improve everything that has to do with support or customer success. And I've done some amount of work, of course, with people who have partners. So that's what I want to do today. So I have two goals today. One is to convince you that it's really a good idea to create partner journeys. And second, to show you step by step how you can actually get it done. So let's start by talking about why you may want to do this. The main reason, of course, is to improve your partner's experience. Partners often have a not so smooth experience because there's a lot of different teams that need to participate in taking care of them. The partner management team is rarely large enough to really take care of all of that. And therefore, we need to leverage all of these teams. And the minute you leverage a bunch of teams, the experience can get a little bit less smooth than we would hope. So the main reason why we want to create journeys is to bring all of those teams together so that they can really truly cooperate, so that the partner's experience feels effortless, even though they are being touched and served by a lot of different organizations. It really is a big way to change the way that we work with partners. So great benefits. It's really, really, really worth it. So let's think about what it is. What is a journey? When I work with customers, I often find that the first thing we need to do is to really think about what it is, because a lot of people have an idea of what a journey is, but it may not be a common understanding that everybody has. So I am not going to comment on every box in this picture. Actually, I think this picture has a few problems if you want to get nitpicky. But a couple of points. First of all, a journey, first of all, is visual. You can see here that there are boxes. There is some kind of movement from left to right as we move through time. It is something that is very embodied. And the reason why we do this is that most people are very visual, and it's very helpful to have a picture in their heads, literally, of what it is that partners are going through. And it replaces, if we say a picture is worth 1,000 words, a journey replaces a 300-page procedure manual. So think of it as a way for people to really understand what's going on and also to pinpoint issues. We'll get into that a little bit later. So that's point number one. It's something that is visual, tangible, that we can share with other people. The second important idea about journeys is that they should cover the entire life cycle. Very often when I start working with a client, they have journeys. Very proudly, they inform me. And the journeys, when you look at them, the journey starts from recruiting a partner to signing them up, right? And that's very important, very useful. But what happens afterwards? Right? The partner is going to start building things. We're going to have to go to market. We're going to have to support them. And that's kind of not in the picture at all, right? So it's going to be throughout the life cycle. That's the second important point. And then the third point is that we want to capture there both what's called here activities. So things we do, either the partner does or we do as part of moving through the life cycle. And also resources, because we want to identify where we need to have maybe a partner website, maybe some collateral, maybe a community, other things that are not necessarily activities for us, but we want to provide these resources to the partner. So again, visual, entire life cycle, and identify both activities, things we do, and things we provide to the customer partner, which are resources. So that's the end result. That's where we want to go. I will show you many other examples as we get towards the end so that you can have better ideas of what could be done. Now let's talk about who should participate in this exercise. So the essence of journeys is that they should represent the entire customer experience, and therefore any organization in your larger organization that deal with partners should be a part of this exercise. So obviously the Alliance Partner Management team is going to be there, obviously driving the effort, but you're also looking at sales, you're looking at support, you're looking at legal, you're looking at probably marketing and maybe other organizations as well. So teamwork is super important. And if you try to say, well, you know, we are very smart in the partner management organization, we're just going to sit down and write the journey, that's not going to work. You can write a draft, you can certainly try to facilitate that, but trying to do the whole thing by yourself, not going to work. The other aspect I would like to cover here is the level of people that you want to participate in this particular exercise of creating journeys. So you want to be nicely in the middle hierarchically of these organizations. So you probably don't want just worker bees because they won't have the authority or even the vision of what we're trying to create. But you probably don't want to have the VP of support in there as well, unless you have a very small organization, right? You need somebody, you know, first or second level, maybe manager, somebody who understands the structure, who understands the processes, and also is willing to suggest improvements. So think carefully about who you want to have in there. And don't aim too high, because if that's the case, you will not get something that's really usable. As you can see, you're going to have a small team working on this, maybe 7, 8, up to 10 people. I would not make it much bigger because then it becomes unwieldy. These people are going to work together through a series of workshops, so you can't have everybody and their brothers and sisters in there. It's just not going to work. So that was who. By the way, if you have questions, feel free to pose them, either raise your hand or put them in the chat. I'm sure Paul can help me manage that. And then at the end, we'll definitely have a formal Q&A. So let's jump into our big topic, which is how do we do this? I see that a good process is going to help you get to a good result at the end. And the process I always follow has these 4 steps. So first, we start with educating the team on what a journey is, especially if you have multiple diverse opposed ideas of what it should be, and set a goal for yourself. What are you going to accomplish in this particular exercise? The second step is to define personas. By the way, I'll give examples of all of this in a minute, right? So the idea of personas is you want to have I was going to say actual people, not true. It's really archetypes, right? But you want to design the journeys around actual people and not around types of partners. I'll give you examples a little bit later, but this is really important, is who are these people who are going through this process with you? Is it a business manager? Is it a development manager? They're going to have different needs, and therefore you really need to articulate around personas. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to think about the phases in the journey. So again, we're looking at the entire life cycle. So we need to start at recruiting the partners, right? And we're going to end at some kind of maintenance, sustaining type of step. So agree on that. It's going to organize all the journeys, and it's going to help everybody figure it out. And of course, when we are defining these journeys, we want to figure out how we jump from one phase to the other. And then number 4 is to identify the critical activities during the journey. So this is the detailed work where we're going to create all of those little boxes that are going to go in the journey. First, we create the structure with the personas and the phases, and then we're going to go into the activities. So let's look at all these things one by one. We're going to start with the education and goal setting. So that's the beginning, if we get of the process. What we're doing here is we are bringing the team together and acknowledging that it could be the first time that they are creating journeys. So we need to make sure that we all understand what's our goal, what are we going to create, why are we doing this, how quickly are we trying to get through it, who is going to do what, etc. This is a phase that I would not skip. I have had any number of surprises working with journeys where different people on the team had very different ideas of what a journey was or how detailed it needed to be, etc. And midway through, we got stuck, right? Because we got to a point where people just did not agree on how to proceed, right? So take your time doing this. My suggestion is to actually create journeys, draft journeys, and show them to the audience, to the participants, and get to some agreement as to, oh, is this the level of detail that's going to be useful to you? What are we doing here, etc. Right? So don't jump too soon into the journeys, but be sure to show it is visual. It fits on one page. It is adapted to a person, etc. So use these realistic examples. Feel free to borrow from this presentation, of course. And if you have done some work already, usually on the acquisition side, there is work that has been done, acquisition of partners, that is, reuse that. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel, right? If you have pieces that are already there, put them in your example. It will give people a reality check, and it will also affirm that, hey, what you've been doing in the past is really good, and we can use it. I would say usually a single meeting is going to get people educated and on the right track. But again, it is a good investment to do this before you start, so that everybody agrees on what it's going to look like in the end. So that's phase number one. Phase number two would be to define personas. So what we want to do with personas is we want to define roles, typical roles at partners. Not every partner is going to have every role, of course, and you cannot possibly have 26 personas, maybe in the end. But if you want people to really take action on these personas, you probably don't want to go too high, right? What I would do with a persona is I would give them names and a face. You will see as you go through the exercise that people will start saying things like, oh, we can't do that. You know, Bob would not go with this. And people really anchor the rationale and the decisions and their explanations of what to do around these people. So make them as vivid as possible, give them a title, give them really think about their responsibilities and their goals. So both personal goals and business goals, right? So let's say you have a business manager, right? The business manager is going to have a business goal of growing the business, duh, that's what they're all about, right? But they may have personal goals of working with a prestigious partner, you, right? So that could be in play as well. So take time to do this. It sounds rather weird at first to most people to give them a name and a face, but it really transforms the experience going forward. The way I go into this is I create drafts of these personas. Again, most people have a hard time creating from scratch. Many people are very good at critiquing what you have done. So without any ego, just put your stuff out there and say, I was thinking we could have a business manager and we could have a development manager, and they would want this, this, and that, and people will very quickly rally against the drafts that you have often, and it's perfectly fine. The other thing to think about in personas is think about the entire life cycle. Again, we want to think about not just acquiring our partners, but nurturing our partners and making them successful for the long run. So we will have personas that are maybe not very active at the beginning, but become active, like a support manager, right? And vice versa. Personas that are very active in the beginning, but then fade away once the solution is available to customers. So think about the entire life cycle. Don't try to have everybody represented on them, on your list. Once you have a good set, just move on. It's always okay to go back and add personas later on. So that's another big learning of journey making, is that iteration is always there. So spend enough time to have a reasonable set and then move on. Once you have personas, you will get a set that might be like what's shown on the next slide. So this is an example. Notice that they have actual faces, right? They are really looking at you. They have names. They have titles, right? And then backing this up, you would have a little sheet that will say, okay, Mia is the marketing manager. She really cares about developing their market. She has a background in whatever. You can put the degrees she has, etc. Right? She really wants to accomplish, great penetration. Whatever it is that you think Mia is going to care about. So do that for each of these personas. Notice here that we have 4 personas. That's a pretty good number. I would never go above maybe 8 personas. In order for the journeys to be actionable, people have got to remember all the personas, and nobody remembers more than 8, and even 8 is a little bit difficult. So very, very specific people with names, etc. That's step 2. Step 3 is to define the journey phases. So this sounds like an irrelevant thing. How hard could it be, etc. But sometimes exercises get stuck on that. So the idea of the phases is we want to identify the major steps in the journey. Usually each of these steps is going to be owned by one organization. So if I'm recruiting partners, then I'm going to be dealing with sales, marketing, etc. Right? If I am in the maintenance phase, I'm going to be dealing mostly with support, maybe with some customer success manager, things like that. Right? The phases in the journey are going to be the same for everybody, although, as I just mentioned, some personas may not be very active in some phases. If I'm the support manager, I might not be involved at all in the recruiting phase, right? And that's perfectly fine. And the way you are sure that your phases are going to work is if you have entrance and exit criteria. So what makes me move from the recruiting phase, let's say, to the development phase? Well, I probably need to sign a contract, right? So it's very clear. Either you have signed or you have not signed, right? And that's the way that you would move forward. And we also want the phases to be meaningful for partners. So partners should recognize where they are in the process, right? I'm evaluating the partnership. I'm building a solution. I'm marketing my solution. I'm expanding, right? They should know that, right? You can always refine later. That's a theme, right? You can always refine it later. And I have sometimes defined phases, tried to create a journey, and then the team says, nope, we had these 2 phases and we really need to merge them because we can't really define the entrance exit criteria very well, or we had this one big phase, but we really need to cut it in 2. Perfectly fine, right? So don't spend too much time at each step. Perfection is not what we're after, just a workable set. All right, so you've done all the hard work, and now you get to do more hard work by creating the journeys. So the journeys are going to be created per persona, right? Each persona receives their own journey. They're going to identify activities, so what we do, as well as resources, which is what we provide for ourselves or for the partner to accomplish this particular step. Always aim to create an ideal journey. So often I get this question of, do we model what we have now or what we want? if what you have now is really not what you want, why spend time modeling it, right? So model what you want and then highlight those pieces that are not really working. I really love to identify pain points as I go, and usually it's pretty obvious, right? We make a list of activities and we say, oh, we really don't have good collateral, for example, on case studies. Okay, great. Let's just circle it. It's a weakness. We want to do it. It's just a weakness. Boom. We'll work on it later. In terms of practical ideas, I like to start with what I call important personas. So personas that have a lot of different roles throughout the journey. The reason for doing this is that, first of all, if you do the hard stuff first, the rest will be downhill, which is great. And then second, it really will allow you to figure out, okay, do I have the right phases? Do I have a good muscle for actually doing it together with the team? So start with somebody who is going to be pretty active throughout the journey. I always propose drafts. People, again, are very good at critiquing things. Then it's hard for them to invent from scratch. So propose drafts to the team and then let the team just shoot it down. And the outcome might be very different from your draft, but it's just a better way to do this. Once you've done your first journey, usually your phases are going to fall into place. It's very rare that you have to go iterate after that. You will also find sometimes that if you have a bunch of personas, as you do the journeys, at some point, somebody's going to say, oh, this persona's journey is almost the same as that persona. Could we merge the personas? Very, very common experience. So think about that. So what I want to do now is I want to show you a few sample journeys. We're not going to go into the details, but just to give you a flavor of what we could create. So if you remember, we had these personas of Bob, the business manager, Mia, the marketing manager, Dee, the development manager, and Sunil, the support manager. So I'm just going to show you a few of them just to give you a feel for this. So this is Bob, the business manager. I might start with Bob if I were mapping this particular set of journeys. So Bob is going to be pretty active in the recruitment phase. You know, is this the right partner that I want to ally with? And active in the go-to-market phase. Again, those are the phases we chose. Your mileage will vary. And then in the sustain phase as well, right? Continue to develop more solution. Notice that Bob basically does nothing in the build phase. It's not his job, right? And that's completely normal to have people who are active only in certain phases. So that would be one possibility. Let's look at Mia's journey, Mia being the marketing manager. As you can see, you have the same phases, right? Mia is a little bit more active throughout. Notice also that in this particular example, we have a special set of actions kind of in the middle, lower middle, that is done only for strategic partners. Very useful to be able to do that, to say, you know, almost everybody does the same thing. And then for strategic partners, we have an account manager, we have a customer success, we have this, we have that. So we do it a little bit differently. I want to leave time for questions. So let's go quickly to the next one, which is just Dee. And as you can see, Dee is super busy in the build phase because she's the development manager, right? So just to give you an idea. Let's summarize the best practices and then we'll go to Q&A. So to summarize best practices, always focus on roles, not the kinds of partners. There's a big tendency to say, well, I'm going to model the gold partners and the platinum partners and the I don't really care about them partners. Don't really do that. It's really about roles, right? So it could be for the small partners that Bob and Mia are really the same person. Great. Wonderful. Then they will do all these activities, right? Focus on roles always. Iterate. Don't try to get it perfect the first time. It never is. It does get a lot easier with practice. So I find teams that have done journeys before can do journeys very easily the next time around. And of course, force yourself to review these journeys every once in a while. Things do change. So don't think that whatever you've created is going to be perfect and forever. Okay, and with that, we'll take questions. So Paul, I don't know how you want to organize the questions, but I'm happy to take whatever people have.
Yeah, so I'd say you guys have many options. You could raise your hand. I could take you off mute. You could put it in the Q&A, or you could put it in the chat. So several options there. I'm gonna ask one question while we wait for some questions, and that is, do you think for this type of journey mapping, it is helpful to get input from one of the personas, or would you say that's a last item, would confuse it as far as the process goes of creating the journey?
Oh, reality is a great thing. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. For me, when I do this kind of exercise, I like to interview at least a few of these personas. Now, depending on your level of experience, you might have had all these discussions before, right? But I certainly, so I would ask them two things: is what does it look like, right, to work with us, and where are your pain points? The
Yeah.
personas are very, very good at telling you the pain points. They may not be very good at organizing the arc, but the pain points they really know. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What are some of the bigger challenges you face when building up partner program with clients? Is there a common challenge?
I think the main problem that I see, at least from my perspective, which is solved by these journeys, is that partner teams rarely own the entire customer experience, right? So they have to work with other people, and the experience is not very well coordinated, and the journeys allows you to coordinate. So to me, that's kind of the magic tool, because we have to work with so many different organizations.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say my experience as well, it seems like they're easy to start, very difficult to manage, which I agree. Then these kind
How
of,
inspiring.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's you feel good after the first year, like, oh, I've onboarded 20 partners, right? And then you look 5 years down the road, it's different story. So ongoing management, maintenance, all that type of stuff, and I think these journeys really help, clarify. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
so
not just about.
the journey does not stop as I sign them up. That's the trick, right? Signing them up, I mean, it's hard, right? But it's the easy part compared to maintaining and sustaining, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of little details, that's for sure. But good question,
And
Brad.
again, you're working with organizations that do not have their main focus on partners, and therefore they could go by the wayside, right?
Mhm. Okay, get another question. How do you build trust and transparency?
Okay, so I'm not sure whether the question is about trust and transparency inside your organization or with the partners. Let me try to answer internally at least, right? So internally, I think there is usually a lot of mistrust about this process, because people see it as very time consuming, which it is, and they don't see the benefit, before they jump into it. So I think giving people a lot of examples, giving people a lot of drafts, really respecting what every organization is bringing to the table is super important. It could be the first time that these organizations are really sitting around the table together. And so to me, that's an opportunity, a great opportunity to build trust, because we're working on this together. And if you do it right, people will also open up about the challenges of their organizations and why they cannot do X, Y, or Z for partners. And instead of just having a shield up, right, they will really explain why it is not possible for them to deliver whatever it is, right? Or it's difficult for them. And it's a wonderful teamwork exercise. I find that it's actually a great way to get organization to work together and to know each other better. Remember, you're also working with people who are first or second level, right? And they don't have a lot of opportunities to work together often. So I think it's a wonderful way to build trust. Is just you've got to have you've got to get it started in as painful a way as possible. In terms of building trust and transparency with partners, well, having a smooth journey is a wonderful way to build trust, right? And you can tell them, you can say, this is what you can expect. I mean, you could use your journey and post it on your website, right? Maybe not with the exact words, etc., but saying, this is what it's going to look like. Partners are visual too, right? They want to know what's next, right? What's next? Who's going to help me next? How do I know I get to be successful in this phase? So I think it could be used in both ways. But I can tell you the journey defining exercises internally are incredible teamwork producers. Incredible.
Thanks a lot. This is a very timely topic for us, certainly at TSANet. We've seen this to be a challenge from our viewpoint as well, right? Where we kind of see all these kind of different parts of an organization need to be aligned to have success in having a partner program. So we've seen some companies do it really well. We've seen some companies that could certainly use some improvement, and I think this certainly goes a long way. So our idea is to kind of continue to build on this, provide some best practices, some case studies, some things that really members can use to get better in this area.
Well, thank you, Paul. And for everyone, even if you had a past experience that was not so good, try again. That's the whole point of iteration.
Exactly. And I'm showing the last slide here, Francoise. So if people want to reach out directly to you, they certainly can do that as well. Thanks a lot, Francoise.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.